October 2025. In a quiet courthouse in Pacific County, Washington, a judge signed a single page that carried the weight of a life. The words read, "Oakley Carlson is declared legally deceased. No body, no grave, no closure." A little girl who once danced in a yellow dress, now officially gone, though she was never found. And that's where our story begins. The courtroom was nearly empty. No cameras, no headlines that day, just paperwork and the hum of fluorescent lights. The order wasn't meant as a verdict, only a legal formality, a way to help her siblings access care and records. But to those who loved her, it felt like a final betrayal. Jamie Jo Hiles, the woman who once rocked Oakley to sleep, learned about it secondhand. "Imagine being told by someone else that your child has been declared dead," she wrote later. "The pain and shock of that moment are indescribable." Outside the courthouse, the Pacific Northwest sky hung gray and heavy. And somewhere beneath it all, a community whispered the same question that has haunted them since 2021. Rewind, December 2016. Grays Harbor County, Washington. Oakley was born into chaos, a family struggling with drugs, instability, and lost chances. At just 9 months old, she was placed in foster care. That's where she met Jamie Jo and Erik Hiles, a young couple who believed she was their miracle. They painted her nursery yellow. They taught her how to say please and thank you. They called her their sunbeam. For over 2 years, Oakley thrived. Halloween costumes, storybooks, giggles in the back seat. The kind of simple joys that make a childhood glow. And then, without warning, it ended. Thanksgiving weekend, 2019. The air smelled of pine and cold rain. Social workers from Washington's Department of Children, Youth and Families arrived with a court order. They said Oakley's parents, Jordan Bowers and Andrew Carlson, had met the conditions for reunification. Drug programs completed. Boxes checked. Case closed. Jamie Jo packed Oakley's clothes, her stuffed bear, and a handmade blanket. She hugged her tightly and whispered, "Be brave." The car drove off, and the little girl who had brought light into their home disappeared into a system that confused family with safety. Jamie Jo later said, "It felt like a funeral without a body." After that day, the updates stopped. No visits, no photos, just a growing silence. The pandemic came, and with it, the perfect storm of isolation and oversight failure. Check-ins turned into phone calls. Home visits turned into paperwork. No one saw Oakley for months. Then a year. The last verified sighting of her was February 10th, 2021, a date that would later haunt investigators. November 2021. A small fire broke out in the Carlson home near Oakville. No injuries, minor damage. The family stayed with friends while repairs were made. And that's when something slipped. A friend, a local school principal, overheard her own daughter whispering with Oakley's sister. The child said, "Oakley is no more." The words stopped the room. The principal asked again, softly, "What do you mean?" The answer came like a shiver. "There is no Oakley." That whisper became the first alarm the world had heard in nearly a year. December 6th, 2021. Oakley's 5th birthday. Deputies from the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office drove up the long dirt road to the Carlson house. Jordan Bowers opened the door. Behind her, the home was too neat, too still. When asked where Oakley was, she said the child was with friends, then with her grandparents. Then, finally, we lost track of her. Deputies exchanged looks. Something was very wrong. Inside, Oakley's room looked staged. No toys, no clothes, no child's life. Just emptiness. Within hours, a search warrant was issued. Teams scoured the surrounding forest for days. They found ashes, fragments, and faint traces of blood inside the home. But no Oakley. As Sheriff Rick Scott later said, this case turned suspicious almost immediately. When investigators interviewed Oakley's siblings, the truth began to seep through the cracks. One sibling said Oakley was punished by being locked in a small space, under the stairs. Another said she'd been hit with a shoe. And one told the story that still chills detectives today, that after Oakley started a fire, her mother beat her, and afterward, she was gone. When asked what happened next, the child whispered, "Mom said the wolves got her." It wasn't a story. It was a cover-up. In December 2021, Jordan Bowers and Andrew Carlson were arrested, not for Oakley's disappearance, but for child endangerment. Tests revealed that their other children had methamphetamine in their systems. Both pled guilty and served time. But when the sentences ended, so did their cooperation. They walked free, saying nothing. They have never once told police what happened to Oakley. Detectives call them persons of interest. The public calls them something else. As details emerged, outrage exploded across Washington. How could a child vanish for 10 months before anyone noticed? DCYF faced brutal questions. How many times had caseworkers actually seen Oakley after reunification? Why was her file closed so quickly? The agency cited privacy laws. The public heard only silence. Jamie Jo Hiles became Oakley's voice. She held vigils, petitions, interviews. She told anyone who would listen, Oakley can still save lives if the system learns from her. Her advocacy inspired a bill, the Oakley Carlson Act, introduced in 2023 by Representative Jim Walsh. It would have required mandatory follow-up visits for reunified children. It passed its first hearing with tears and applause, and then died quietly in committee. Just like Oakley's case. Fast forward to July 2025. After 4 years without answers, a judge declared Oakley legally dead. The request came from a guardian representing her surviving siblings to unlock sealed records that could help their care. The declaration didn't end the investigation, but it reopened old wounds. Jamie Jo found out from someone else. Her grief turned to fire. She posted online, "I will not let them erase her. She deserves justice, not paperwork." Grays Harbor Sheriff's Office insists the case is active. Detectives still review tips. The FBI remains involved. Bowers and Carlson are out of prison, living separately, both refusing to speak. Under Sheriff Brad Johansson told reporters, "Someone knows something. We haven't given up. Oakley deserves to be found. The sheriff's office still lists her as missing under suspicious circumstances, even as the court calls her deceased, a paradox that feels almost cruel. Legally gone, spiritually alive, still waiting. Each December, candles line the sidewalks of Aberdeen and Oakville. Neighbors, strangers, former foster families, all gather to say her name. A child's photo taped to every post. Where is Oakley? Jamie Jo lights the first candle. She says, "This isn't goodbye. It's a promise." Around her, the flames flicker in the coastal wind, small lights refusing to go out. The case forced Washington to confront an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes, the system meant to protect children becomes the one that loses them. Oakley's story has already saved others. New community programs now track post-reunification welfare. Foster parents have become advocates instead of afterthoughts. Jamie Jo says, maybe Oakley's light is still doing its job. Maybe that's how she lives on. Not in the headlines, but in every child whose cry is finally heard. Somewhere, a porch light in Oakville still burns every night. Neighbors say it's Jamie Jo's, the one she promised to leave on for Oakley. 5 years old, curly hair, a giggle that once filled the house. The state says she's gone, but her story still whispers through these trees. And the question that began this story still echoes louder than ever. Where is Oakley? If you know something, no matter how small, call the Grays Harbor County Sheriff's Office or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. Justice begins when silence ends. Before you go, remember her name. And if stories like this move you, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and share her story. Because every view keeps her voice alive. Next, watch What Really Happened to the Springfield 3 on that fateful night in 1992. Another case where hope refuses to fade.